Welcome to part two of my conversation with Sophia Chang. In part one, that dropped earlier in August, we talked all about the mindset of agency and of choice, and we went real and deep into our postpartum journeys and the very isolating experiences that we both had. And in this drop, we explore and unpack all about entrepreneurship and her storied career working with some of the most iconic brands like Nike, Apple, Refinery 29, HBO, and the NBA. And we also talk about what it takes to build a career from the ground up, as well as how she embodies what it means to be a modern Asian female. I'm so excited to bring this second part of a two-part conversation with you. Are you ready? Let's drop in.
Welcome to Asian Like Me, presented by me, Dr. Sohee, the podcast for the modern Asian woman redefining what it means to thrive. I've spent years navigating the complexities of culture, family expectations, and career ambitions. Here, we have real, unfiltered conversations with incredible women who are breaking barriers, charting their own paths, and owning their power. Together, we'll dive into the wins, the lessons, and the challenges we all face. And yeah, we'll laugh. We'll share stories and drop some actionable tips to help you crush it in your own way. This is your space to feel seen, heard, and inspired. Ready to rewrite the rules? Let's drop in.
When I was having young kids, I was fully ensconced in corporate world. It was not like it is today, with a little bit more freedom, a little bit more like working from home situations. Like I had to fight tooth and nail, Sophia. Like, Can I go to mommy and me for 1 hour? How am I going to make it up? And the shame and the guilt. And
yes.
Can
Especially
I be
against your male coworkers?
Yes.
Yes.
It was such a battle. And I felt I was always trying to fight for a little bit more freedom and balancing while I had 3 kids in the corporate world. And I don't know if you have faced a similar experience, or perhaps that's why you went. And I think that was the big pull for entrepreneurship. Also, by the way, like my family lineage of entrepreneurs, so it's in me and I own that. But I tried to make it work for a long time in the corporate sense. And I think I had pretty good understanding bosses. However, it was still so boxed in, like 9 to 5, butts and seats is what the phrase was. So it felt very much like I was never able to do anything well. I couldn't parent well, wasn't there, felt levels of shame and guilt, wasn't doing my best at work because I'm used to doing my best at work and being all on 60 hours all the time before I had kids. So it was this weird transition and I'm like, I feel so untethered.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about that though, is that it's a journey that many, many women share back then and now. And the larger word for it is balance. Inability to find that peacefulness of balance, especially once you start having a kid, which all women go through.
Yeah. And by the way, the most recent study, I'm juicing up on this. I get really down this rabbit hole. So we're seeing a decline in women. More women are leaving the workplace because
childcare is so expensive.
Childcare is expensive. The commute takes up time. It doesn't feel worth it for all what you pay out. So women are leaving, and there's a decline in women in board seats and C-suites. For a long time, it had been like we're seeing little tick marks up, but now it's on the decline.
Because there's no support, like especially after you have kids. I remember talking to someone I deeply respected. She had a very high position. She was like a VP. And I think her kids are around your kid's age now. And I remember to her sharing with me, like, yeah, when I went back to work, I just felt like I had to constantly prove myself.
Yeah.
And you do. Like, I mean, I've been working for myself for many, many years. And I did actually have a full-time role at the time when I was pregnant, which was really cushy. But yeah, it's this every woman you talk to is this constant battle of balance. And learning to be okay with that is something that I've, through reflective work, have gotten to. Whereas I've noticed that since you started going back to school too, I have more time for my work and I'm so happy and I love my job. I love my work so much. And there are moments, certain days where I've given my best. I'm so happy with the way I showed up in work. And I feel like I'm missing the mark in so many ways and did not show up for him in the day, in the capacity that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that you love your work. I feel the same. How did you find it? Let's go back because we were down
Yes,
that
I know.
road a while ago.
So, yeah, grew up in New York, always had an affinity for drawing, the arts. And funny enough, I share this story where, like, when I was, I don't know, like, when I was very young and whenever we'd venture into the city, because we lived in Queens, and you see, like, people drawing people's caricatures, my dad would always be like, whisper in my ear and be like, Sophia, if you became an artist, this is what you'd be doing. And ever since I was, like, 6, I was always very hard-headed and very stubborn, and thankfully always had a very strong, like, deep connection of self and identity and my self-worth.
Oh, I love that.
And I would roll my eyes and be like, A, there's nothing wrong with this. And B, I know that I can do more than that.
Yeah.
Ever since I was like 4, 5, 6, I always knew.
How did you have such confidence and knowing of self?
I don't know. I have no idea. But that's something I've always mentioned on interviews. But since becoming a parent, one of the things that many philosophies that I subscribed to was that how we speak about our children in front of them and how we speak to our children about themselves becomes their own narration of themselves.
Yes.
Right?
Preach. Yes.
So I was very fortunate, and my parents did many things that were like not great, but one thing they did do very well on was they would always speak very highly of me to each other. But at the time, I'd be like rolling my eyes like, oh my God, you guys, shut up. You guys are like obsessed. And it's because they only have one or, whatever. But they've always spoken very highly of me. And maybe that was it. Maybe that was it.
Maybe that was the fodder. Yeah.
But they also pushed very hard for me to be in certain directions. And I was always just like, no, I don't want to. And
you just had a knowing.
And it didn't feel right in my body. It didn't feel right with what I knew about myself and what I'm capable of and what I can do. It just was like, no, like they wanted me to be a doctor or lawyer. They wanted me to be a straight A student. They would also point out all my peers and be like, look at this person, look at that person. Why can't you be like that?
Comparison.
Yeah, comparison, which is very common in Asian culture. But I was just like, yeah, no. And also they're like nerds. Not like they're exactly. I'm like they not that they're nerds. It's just like that's lame. Like no, that's not me. That's what I meant by mold. Remember we used the word.
Oh, we did. It took me such a long time to find that bravado and that type of courage to be like, this is my path. It wasn't until I went to university, like undergrad, and I was like, all right, mom, dad, not going to do the doctor thing.
I had a similar experience too, where I didn't find myself until school because.
Where'd you go to school?
Parsons.
Okay.
But I also was in this hyper academic environment, right? So not only was I going through school, SAT stress, SAT prep, and all those academic extracurricular stuff, it was always like what someone else wanted for me. It wasn't what I wanted for me. Outside of academics, though, if I finished my homework and I wanted to go out and play, go out and play. But so there wasn't a tether there. So all I had to do was just cut corners or like, Photoshop or impress them to some extent, and then I'd be good to go. But yeah, I just felt like I was in an extremely repressed, environment. And until I went to school and realized the arts, the arts, what illustration was like, that there is a business here and how it worked. And I was just like so happy and joyful and deeply immersed in this world of the education and the business of industry of the arts and illustration. And, Parsons was great. I used every freebie I could get as far as going to, when they had symposiums or panels. And, we shared aspects of the campus with NYU and Cooper Union. And I just used every resource. I was constantly in the library. I tried to use all the computers as much as possible. I was like, I'm going to make the most out of my time here in college because I'm finally happy.
So you found your path. So how do you go from Parsons to the career that you have now? I know that's a big bridge.
Yeah. So, was at Parsons for undergrad, initially went in for fashion. I was obsessed with fashion design. I used to watch I don't know if I'm saying this correctly because I can't speak French, but haute couture shows.
Yes.
56K modem. I used to tell people I was going to be the creative director of Christian Dior. I don't know what my affinity was with Christian Dior. But I had notebooks and notebooks and notebooks ever since I was in 5th grade of just drawings and drawings and drawings. I loved it. I would have my dad buy me the September issue of Vogue magazine. I would just flip through it. And I don't know what it was. It was just beautiful and I liked it. And I don't know, expression.
Yeah, it's art in pages.
Yes. And then I went to Parsons and then I realized I don't want to learn how to sew. I just like drawing things. And then one day I was in the elevator of the school. And so we have different campuses and different majors are on different floors. The elevator doors opened up on the illustration floor. And they had this lobby of just a showcase of student work. And it was like a skateboard, a tote bag, a children's book, a ugly doll. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to draw. I want to make things. I want to things. I love things and storytelling. And so I changed my major.
Yeah.
Like it was awesome. And so I learned about illustration, very like traditional studio classes. There was one class that was very like pivotal for me. There's two classes actually. One was all about, it was taught by a woman who worked at Nickelodeon at the time. I think she works in merchandising, but it was all about creating artwork on product. Basically what I saw and actually what I do today.
That's what I was going to say.
Product collaboration and like how to tell that story. That was amazing. And then another class I took, I actually had to interview in because it was only offered to associate degree students, but it was in partnership with Columbia University Business School kids.
Yeah.
It was all about luxury design and strategy. It was my first introduction into any type of strategy work because I was an illustration major. But it was taught by 3 professors, one of which soon became my business mentor in life. And it basically, they had like Celine, they had Hermes, they had LVMH. Like people come in to talk about a internal project they're working on. And we would be broken up into groups and each assigned a brand and an active project that the company's working on. For example, if Louis Vuitton wanted to open up their first men's flagship store in New York City, that's your prompt for the entire semester.
Oh, wow.
So the business school students would work on the business side of things. And then the design students would work on the design side. Each team had a liaison. I was, super ambitious. This one was the liaison for my team. I was assigned Celine. And yeah, it was just such a transformative experience for me to work with peers, practice PowerPoints, be the liaison between the students and work with the deadlines. And it was just like, I loved it. It was like the project manager, producer in me was like
lit up.
So on top of all of that, during my undergrad years, I also did internships. I worked part-time jobs. I grew up in New York, so I loved sneakers. I loved street culture and all of this kind of stuff. And I interned at 4 different places. One was with a fine artist named Ryan McGinnis. So I was really just like an intern scanning stuff, cleaning silk screens, things like that. I interned with a illustrator who's a freelance illustrator. So I got to see what the freelance world looked like, dealing with clients, dealing with invoicing, dealing with, whatever his artistic process was, archiving. I interned at the time was known as Complex Magazine. Now it's an entire like media conglomerate. But there I learned about how magazines work, how the advertising department works with the editorial department, how they deal with deadlines, how they deal with print and production and getting things ready for print. And I loved this magazine growing up. And I'll give you a quick story. I just started getting it in my mailbox for some reason when I was in high school. And I was just obsessed with it because it was like everything in this magazine was everything I loved as far as like music and sneakers and like hip hop and the way it was designed and so cool. And a few years later, I got to college, and one evening I was just like, you know what? I want to see if I can work for them. And I couldn't find, I would go to the Barnes & Noble in Union Square. I couldn't find anyone's name, like email address, but, in the front of the magazine, you could see all the credits and stuff like that. So I started Googling everyone's name. I couldn't find their email addresses, but I found their Facebooks. So I Facebook messaged them and I'd be like, hey, I'm a sophomore. I go to Parsons. I'm an illustration student. I would love to work with you guys. I just spammed people.
I love that.
And they got me an interview. And that's
It got you an interview.
Got me an interview. I'm all about putting myself out there. I have like no shame, ironically, as a Asian person. I did those internships. I did another one where I interned with this designer that worked on a lot of well-known apparel and product brands that I loved. And I learned about his process. He taught me about how to get things ready for production. Like if you like t-shirts, how a design works, how we design it, how do we prepare the file to send out to the vendor in China, or the entire process of very, very notable brands. And then his studio mate was a web designer. So I would help him sometimes too. And so I learned about e-com. Like he designed for like Parenza Schuler. He designed for like Judith Ripka and Sandro and Vince and all this kind of stuff. So I learned a bunch of stuff from him. They were all powerhouses. They were all like just Swiss Army knives. And I was very fortunate enough where everyone took me under their wing. They showed me their process. And so by the time I graduated, I had a full portfolio of all this stuff.
Massive portfolio.
Yeah. And first early years are as rough as, for any new grad, where I'd have some freelance opportunities here and there. Some people would call me back to if they had certain deadlines and needed extra hands. And then my big break was actually through a random opportunity for Anthony Bourdain. It's a great story because it's just do things just cuz. There was no money for it, but it was a random opportunity through friends of friends where someone happened to work at the production company that worked on Travel Channel stuff in Anthony Bourdain, and they were looking for an illustrator. I was like, well, yeah, sure. And it was for the Boston episode. So I did this illustration that they posted on their Facebook. And for whatever reason, people loved it. And then Travel Channel hit me up directly. And that was my first real client.
Oh, wow.
I remember being at a dog park and taking this call with a client. I was like, oh my gosh. And so what they had me do was I got to watch all the episodes ahead of time for a specific season, and I created a poster illustration for each episode. They created posters of it, and at the time, it was before businesses really had invested in Facebook or social media. Prior to that, they were doing Samsonite luggage giveaways, and then what they did was they shared these illustrations, these posters as giveaways, and then Anthony Bourdain would sign them. That was the first time I ever got interviewed, and it had a lot of press, so then it opened up just my name and put my work out there in the world. So long story short, that was the big break. And then, just trying to chase checks like anybody else, 10 years before me, the same graduating year as me, and just, doing a good job. But fast forward, I'd say the first few years was doing the things.
You have to do the things.
You have to do the things.
Yeah.
And then you meet people along the way. And then I met other creative people, and we just made stuff. I started a health and wellness platform called Undo Ordinary with a business partner. She's amazing. She's a superstar creative.
There's many evolutions.
There's many seasons, and honoring every season and being present for every season. Easier said than done.
I know.
And there's always the season that we crave for too.
Yeah.
The season of life that we miss.
You had many seasons in just that story you shared about how your career and the big hit.
I just got through college.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have a book in you. What I want to hone in on, though, and point out is the resilience. Obviously, you mentioned that. You have that.
Yeah.
But being curious, what I see under the hood of that is a curiosity to learn. You aren't saying no. You aren't saying, I'm above that, or I'm not doing that. You just went, the sense is that you were so curious about it and eating up every opportunity to learn and being ambitious and saying, I'll be the liaison on this team, which, by the way, is a beautiful bridge between the business world and the art world, which is why you're so good at what you do. My question that I think is really important for people to know, because we don't talk about it often, is what's been the biggest failure in your career?
It's so funny because for the longest time, especially in those years, if someone asked me what my biggest fear was, it would have
Not
been,
fear, failure.
But my biggest fear at the time would have been failure.
Oh.
For a very, not that it was ruminating. But if that question was ever asked, my biggest fear would have been failure at the time. And at the same time, I'm also not scared to fail in the sense of, what's the worst case that could happen? This doesn't happen. Or worst case scenario, not great. And it's fine if I mess up. And greatest failure, it's funny because maybe it's because I'm a toxic, this is a toxic optimist kind of thing to do.
Toxic positivity.
Yeah. But I'm you know what? I don't think it has to be failure. Of course, my brain goes to failure, but my brain will also switch and be but what was the lesson here?
Yeah. Because you're rewiring.
I messed up something really badly recently. We have a family trip going on. I got all these notices that my passport was expiring. Long story short, found out it was I needed a 6-month window in order to enter Singapore kind of thing. I had 4 weeks to get it done.
Damn.
I'm trying to put makeup on, take my passport photo, dealing with my kid. It was raining. My printer broke. I print out stuff and I do all the things. I'm already pretty stressed out. And then I'm on the couch that night and I'm holy shit, I forgot to sign the form.
Oh no!
I literally forgot to check. I had to come back home. It was my kid probably needed to poop and I needed to help him poop. Yeah, forgot to sign the form. And it was a whole thing. It was just and I think there's a part of you, of course, that will show up that'll be, if I just did this.
Yes.
Just slow
the inner
down,
shame.
I just da. And then a part of me that was even louder was, what's our lesson here, Sophia?
What is the lesson?
And that
What'd you get to?
My lesson was, you know what? You got to make some more time for these. Next time, just fucking get this shit done. Because I was putting it off. Look, and there's no one else to blame in that moment. There's my accountability.
Yeah.
Ownership is important. And it's like, what's our lesson here? And that's our lesson. And I have a tendency, especially, I've always been like this, but even more so in motherhood, is like just doing 1,000 things at once. And sometimes you just need to take a beat and you just need to slow down. Like the self-awareness, though, to be like,
I know.
whoa. Whew.
Yeah. I, yesterday in real time, was like, I feel it in my body. And these days, because of all of the embodied work and meditation and mindfulness, which is another road we can go down.
I can get super into that.
I have learned to, because my motor is always going, or was. It's the imprint in me is like always go, both because I saw my parents work multiple jobs. There was no rest. Rest is not a thing. And so I'm always going and doing. And the funny story is like, I don't ever remember seeing my parents rest or sit down for much long. Like, you know, it's interesting when you reflect. So that imprint is in me. So what I'm really happy about that I've been able to rewire in me is the ability to notice when I'm wired up in my body. It feels anxious. It feels tight. It feels constricted in my chest. I need to breathe. So because I say this to my clients so much, it's like we have to breathe in order to create a circuit breaker to choose something different. That's neurologic. And so yesterday I felt this energy like, come on, that was like so wound up. And I was like, I need to breathe. So I literally did like 30 minutes of meditation in the middle of my day, in the middle of everything going on. I just dropped it all. But that's the learning for me. It's like, for me, I have to ground to be able to be centered, to know what move next to make, to know where to focus. Because honestly, like these days for me, Sophia, I am not interested in multitasking much. Obviously, there are things in this modern life we have to multitask, but I want to be present. Like in this conversation with you, I want to be so here that I don't want to miss it. When I'm with my kid, I want to put my phone down as much as possible. And that's a practice.
I have so much on that topic. I just got this amazing app this week because I hate being on my phone. I want to go back to being on a flip phone. I will. In my lifetime, I will go back to having a flip phone.
Yes, sister.
And so if you have a meditation practice, amazing. After your meditation practice, shake your body. I'm going to show you how.
Oh, everyone, she's getting up and showing me. Okay.
So I'm going to look crazy.
Arms are wide.
Do this like in privacy of your home, but like you just shake.
Oh, I love that.
Shake, shake, shake.
She's bending over and shaking, jumping. It's like a warrior dance.
For as long as you want. Like shake, 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 shake. And there's something that happens.
So what does that do for you?
Do you want to try it?
Yes. Will you describe for people as I'm doing this?
Okay, so you're basically just shaking your body. You're not just like going, woo, you're like shaking your hips. You have a little like gyrating vibration.
But in any way that you feel?
Your neck, any way that you feel. But shaking. Shake your legs, shake your knees, shake your ankles, shake your wrists, shake your shoulders, shake your neck, shake your head. Jump a little bit, and stop.
Okay.
How do you feel? Like, what sensations are you feeling in your body?
I just feel different. I don't know how to describe it. I feel different. I feel renewed.
Yeah? So where that comes from is that if you look at animals, after they go through a moment of conflict, I don't know, if a dog has a moment with another dog or something, they shake their body.
They do shake. I have a dog.
It's a way of moving the cortisol and the hormones that our body pumps into our bloodstream. It's a way to move that. We're actually moving that energy. And so it's amazing. And it kind of gives your body and brain a reset. Like, how clear?
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
I do.
Yeah. So just like a quick shake.
Yeah.
So that was one of the tips. But drinking water, that goes back to agency and choice. Like, how can I come back into my body, right? Like, that takes so much work for you to even be aware that you're in that space and that your chest feels tight and that you're feeling it here in your body. And what do you do, right?
Yeah.
Just taking a sip of water. Or in early motherhood, postpartum, things being absolutely psycho.
Yeah.
Going on a walk is not very accessible for a multitude of reasons. Time, you got the screaming kid, whatever. But you know what we can do? You can go outside, open the door, and take 2 breaths. Turning things into more bite-sized and more accessible and giving yourself that agency.
Yeah, that's my whole thing around micro action. Don't try to do everything
Yeah.
and over orchestrate it.
But
Do
it's
what's
hard because
accessible.
like our type A brain is, especially for women, is always like making things perfect, getting it done well, especially being Asian, like we're drilled into perfection. We're
Yes.
drilled into, but what the program I went on was how to get out of this all or nothing thinking.
Yeah.
And that's where both and starts.
Yep. So another way to introduce that is what's the third option? Because if you notice, most people are like, do this or that. What's one or two? Option one or two. And for me, I always love to introduce, well, is there a blend of both or a third way?
And that's curiosity. But
Yes.
we can't access that if we're like this.
Exactly.
Right? And so it comes with doing the work. It comes with learning the tools and all this kind of stuff.
And
Or go for a shake.
go for a shake. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for a shake. The season of life you're in too, I mean, all of these tips, I imagine you have to have it micro-sized. And for me, because my kids are older, I have what I call now, it's a new luxury time. When people talk, it's like, okay, if you have time to have a slow morning start, if you have time for whatever, that's the luxury that,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's the new luxury. And so I love I have a practice now that I'm really accountable to and that helps me feel centered. And, I think that what I love about this is like in those really thick seasons where like you don't know which end is up, there are things to do that is accessible. And so I want to take the whole like, well, I don't have time thing out of the option. It's like you make time for what's important.
I mean,
And-
easier said than done. Actually, we can talk about nutrition just to give this a little moment too, because
We can.
that's my biggest challenge is when I give that answer of I just don't have time,
Yeah.
because I'm like very like interrupted every single morning, because I have to take care of my son. Then I have to get him ready. He has 1,000 requests. I'm trying to get his breakfast, his lunch ready,
Yeah.
get him out the door. It's a whole process. And we don't really do screens. We just started doing a little bit of TV here and there. So I have like maybe 2 Bluey episodes for me to try to like get everything done, get myself ready for the day, because he goes to school, he's supposed to hopefully be out the door at 9, but I need to start my day.
Yeah.
And then I start my day, but I didn't eat anything.
Yeah.
And
This is
so-
why I created the bar.
Yeah, we talked about this. I mean, but that's the thing. And then I'm so like working, and then my body might be like, ooh, we're hungry. We're getting a little shaky and our blood sugar is dropping. And I'm just like, but I got to get this done. Or I'm on a call, or I don't want to look unprofessional, like shoving a burrito in my mouth or something. That's the part for me that's been coming up of I need to make time for things that are important for me.
Yeah. And I think that is the common narrative that we women that are with kids and thick in our careers in different seasons and phases of our careers. It's like the other day, for example, I ran into 2 women who were like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I just had coffee for breakfast. Not by choice, but that's just kind of both habitual and knowing that you're so busy. It's like what's accessible. Okay, we could go and I will definitely have you back on again. And I'm curious to know, like, how do you define what it means to be a modern Asian female?
I love that question because my answer for that question would be when you pick and choose what type of modern female you want to be. Female you want to be. So how I would like to describe the journey of being an Asian woman here in America, in a modern day world, is that we're all, especially if we come from immigrant parents, we're all born in this household where there's a different language. There's different rules where you put your chopsticks, where you put your bowl. Where I don't know, in the cafeteria, no one gives, American cafeteria, no one gives a and whether you're the only Asian in the middle of, Iowa, or you're in a very immersive Asian environment where there's other people who look like you and eat like you. As we grow, well, one of the things we mentioned too was the filter of fear, shame.
Shame.
I said earlier that all Asians, our first filter is shame. You're bringing shame to yourself. You're bringing shame to your family. This is a shameful thing. Like we learned that. Like, and everything's like how you're sitting as a woman, how you're eating, how you're just the things you don't do, right? And it's been so deeply drilled into us. And part of being a modern day Asian woman is shedding that. When you say that is not me and that is not my story and that's not my narrative, or certain things that you can hold on to. Like I hold on to my Mandarin. I hold on to that language because I would like that to be a part of my identity. I value that culture. I value other people's cultures. And so it's really all about shedding the things that aren't serving you from our culture that's been instilled in us, or things that, our parents have said to us or tried to instill in us as far as their values, cultural values, and then redefining what those things mean to you. Is that something you want to keep with you and take on into your life and your journey of life? Or you want to leave it behind because it doesn't serve you?
Yeah. And with that, it takes us to the top of the conversation where you're talking about agency. That is the theme of agency. And I love that. Sophia, I'm going to have you on again. I can't wait to continue. So thank you so much for being in the natural woods with me.
Anytime. Anytime. I'm a member at Huntington.
We'll be back. Well, I think you can agree that we had a very dynamic conversation, and there's so many reflection questions I want to bring forward. But one of the things I love so much about this podcast is asking every woman that I'm in conversation with what it means to be a modern Asian female. And when I asked Sophia, she said it was really about picking and choosing. And to pull that further, picking and choosing what type of modern Asian woman to be. And that it's about shedding our limiting cultural imprints and ultimately redefining it for ourselves, which gets back to the theme of agency and choice that is interwoven throughout our conversation. So, as I always say, get ready to flow journal around this. And if you are out for a walk or if you are driving, commuting, multitasking, all the things that we women do, you're going to want to come back to these. So, the first reflection question I have for you is, what are some of the limiting cultural imprints that you can shed? And as you move forward, in what ways will you have agency and choose what type of modern Asian woman you want to embody? So that's a really big one. So take some time with that. And the second question I have for you is all around the seasons, which, by the way, is the main theme of the first book I wrote called Mommy Tracked. So take some time to identify what season of work and life you're in currently. And the sub question to that is, how can you give yourself more permission to fully lean into this season? Which, by the way, hint, hint, it means that you have to say some intentional no's to be able to really lean into the season and own the season that you're in. So for me, I'm in a season in which I have older teenage children, which means I can take on different things and my presence is different than it was with my children and family than it was when my kids were younger. So, flow journal, what season are you currently in, and how can you give yourself more permission to fully lean into it? And then the third reflection question I have for you is around that question I asked Sophia about failure. And she answered that she had a fear of failure. So, as you look at your own career, whether it's looking forward and identifying the fears that you have, or looking backward and at some of the key failures in your life, either one, what awarenesses come about from reflecting on those, and what will you carry forward? So, I hope these questions illuminate and provide more clarity for you in your path. And I want to share about my first book, which hasn't been spotlighted very much, but this is a book that I wrote and was launched in 2020. And it's called Mommy Tracked: How to Take Authentic Risks and Find Success on Your Terms. And it was really written for the woman trying to juggle mommyhood with their ambitions at work and how to do that. The book is chock full of reflection questions. And as one person put it, it's like having me, a coach, in your pocket. It's also available on Audible so that you can listen to it wherever you're going, because I know that we juggle a lot. So look for it on Amazon or listen to it on Audible. And of course, share this. I'm going to ask, share this conversation with your work wife, with your best girlfriend tribes, with your family WhatsApp group, because it is such a conversation that is full of wisdom and so many learnings that I know that they're going to enjoy it. So do me a favor, share it out, leave a review, and don't forget to follow because, as I say, I'm going to bring forward more dynamic conversations that you don't want to miss. So until next time, be well.